Hello, hi, welcome to my presentation. My name is Sadir Sood, and I'll just put this before I start my presentation. I would like to show hold my ID to the camera for about 5 to 10 seconds. All right, perfect. Okay, so the way I have structured this presentation is basically comprising of the following, uh, basically the following areas that I'll be touching upon. I'll start off with giving an introduction to myself, then I'll move on to the scope and the way I've organized my portfolio. Then moving forward, I will discuss how I've grown over the course of this program, then how the courses I've learned are very interconnected. In addition, then I'll start to talk a little bit about the challenges. I'm sure everyone can agree with this, the challenges that I've actually faced and how I was able to overcome them. Then from there, I'll move on to more towards my teaching philosophy and how over the course of this program, I've been able to learn or change my teaching philosophy a bit and learn more about the best classroom practices. And finally, I will briefly talk about how how the portfolio will come in very handy for me in my practice as a teacher. Okay, so let's get started. So basically, my name is Sadir Sood. I'm originally from Pakistan, but however, I've been for the past 8 years on and off. I've been in Qatar in the Middle East. I'm from biological sciences background, so my undergraduate and my masters are in biological and biomedical sciences related fields. And after I finished my undergraduate, I worked as a research specialist at Biomedical Research Center for a couple of years. But at that time, I really missed the teaching element of being around students. So therefore, I obtained a master's and then I started working as an education support specialist here in Qatar. So my responsibilities with this position includes like holding recitation sessions, exam review sessions, preparing homeworks, quiz assignments for undergraduate students, and the classes that I work with and the courses that I work with include the Biology 100, Cell Biology, Genetics, Computational Biology, and such courses. All right, so in terms of the organization of the portfolio, my portfolio it's divided in two separate parts. The first one is the Google Drive, where I have made a separate folder. The folder includes a file, which is the Masters of Science Education Plan. This basically lists all the courses in order, and with each course, once it's done, I just color code it red and put the term next. I have put the term next to it, so which helps me remember because I've taken most of the time I've taken one course every semester. So over the course of around 12 semesters, it gives me a better timeline of which courses came in first. And in addition to this, I have also organized my coursework in folders. So each course has its own folder. And then within the folder of the course, there are other folders for each unit, which would start off with the unit number, followed by the name of the unit. And then each unit folder, I have the learning guide, the discussion, the written assignment, and the portfolio activity, as well as the reading assignment. So all this information is stored in the Google Drive. And since the Google Drive basically has all the information, it's also important to know what was the highlights of each course. So that is basically has been organized in the Evernote. In my research and practice portfolio, and the research part for this portfolio basically includes the more prominent research articles that I found in the course, which probably would be potentially helpful in the future. While the other part, which is the practice part, includes its learning or teaching or learning strategies, which might come in handy, I have come across in past courses, and they might come in handy in the future. So just to show you a little bit of what this might look like, this is what my Google Drive looks like. So for example, for all of these folders, there's a folder for each. So for example, in case of this current course, I've completed the first 3, and this is the third unit. So all this information has been stored in all these folders. While in addition, in the following units, As I come across each unit, I will add the title of the unit and include all the other information that was needed. And in terms of the Evernote library, this is what it looks like, the notebook. I have notebook for each course. So for example, in the notebook for creating a positive classroom environment, I have basically the research portfolio includes this top is the resource and then a summary of the research articles that I found really interesting, along with the date and all the other relevant information. And in case of the practice portfolio, this includes basically in here I have added the discussion assignment where we had to design an activity which might come in very handy in the future, and then provided a brief description. So this is how the information has been organized in the Google Drive and in Evernote. All right, so moving forward in terms of my growth as a biomedical scientist and biomedical research, I'm used to keeping detail of every single microliter of something that I add into my use in my experiments. So therefore, this was the skill that I had from before was very helpful. And what I did in this case was I made, as I showed earlier, that I prepared a document which at the beginning which listed all courses that were required, and then I highlighted which courses I was going to take, and then once it was done, I would put in the date, I would put in the term and all the relevant information into that folder, into the folder and into the document. And in addition, the folders that I used, the template was created at the beginning, and then as I took each course, I would just make a copy of the folder and start renaming the unit numbers and the course numbers, and then I would just basically store them properly just to be sure that nothing was ever lost. And in terms of the improvements that I could have made is because since I used the template, the discussion assignment and the written assignment portfolio activity for each unit have the same name for each course. However, if I wish one thing that I would have changed from the beginning now, I would probably change it still, but this is going to take some extra time to do it, is to add the course number before the discussion assignment or before the written assignment or before the portfolio activity, just to make it easier for me to actually remember which course the assignment belongs to. If this is in the current scenario, all of the discussion assignments for each course's unit 1 are named identically. And in addition, I wish I had also stored my grades for the assignments, because obviously I did not do well in all the assignments, so having the grades next to the assignments or stored in a separate document would have been helpful in helping me directly recall how well I did in an assignment, etc. And in addition, at the beginning, I was trying to, I believe my initial approach was that master's program are supposed to be for the students to learn by themselves. So I wasn't very hesitant on approaching the instructors. However, by the time I approached my third course, I was getting more and more comfortable, but I wish I would be even more comfortable in approaching the instructors whenever needed. And overall, in terms of the interconnectedness of the courses, I believe the courses at University of the People are very well connected. And so what I have done, one thing that I have done is basically divided them based on some keywords that occur in different courses. So for example, just an example here is the word diversity or inclusion. And there are 4 separate courses which had units that covered the idea or covered the topic of diversity. So these kind of having these keywords is very helpful in creating a mind map and basically being able to recall all the information regarding a specific topic that has been learned over the course of these 12 courses. And in terms of the application, basically the first course that I took was creating a positive classroom environment. And even though I was taking it from a teacher's perspective, the best thing from that course was that I was able to learn about different personality types and how a single strategy does not work with everyone. And this approach actually really helps me in working in the lab with my fellow lab mates who were other master's and PhD students. And overall, the lab environment, as a result, was very productive, and we were all able to successfully obtain our degrees and publish good science. And the challenges that I failed would be, so I would start off with my initial motivation for starting the master's was that like during the pandemic, we were all stuck at our home, and I was doing a lot of computational research during the day because the labs were not accessible to us. So as a result, I was looking for some other areas of interest which were not science related, but still were, which I found really interesting. So that's when I came across the Master's of Education program. And I just started, and then the pandemic, the restrictions started to loosen up, and we were able to get access to the labs. But I stuck with it. I took one course, or more or less one course every term, and just stuck to it. Every Wednesday, I had a deadline. Like Wednesdays after Wednesdays, I continued with it, and it took me a total of 3 years to complete this program. And the other challenge that I have come across in terms of, because of this long, lengthy period of time, is that the research and practice portfolio for me is like I can only recall so much from the first few courses that I took in early 2020. So as a result, I've had to go back to my individual assignments, luckily, which I've stored properly. So I went back to those assignments, and that's where I found more information, where I had like some rough notes, which I would look at, and then that would give a better idea of what actually was going through my head when I was writing those assignments. And in addition, I'm very proud of myself, and I'm very thankful to all the instructors for keeping me on the track to actually complete this program over such a long period of time. All right, so my teaching philosophy has always been to do hands-on learning, where students get the bare minimum information or bare minimum theoretical knowledge that they absolutely need. And once they have that information, they are given scenarios or real life based scenarios that they have to resolve. And that's when their real learning happens, because the students will actually be able to remember that, oh, kids, we did something, like we know this, and that's why something is happening in the lab, or that's what something else that they found. So they're able to create the link between the theory and the practice. In addition, I'm a huge supporter of project-based learning, where students design or actually pick from a list of different projects. And in addition, they also work with one another. So this actually gives them a better idea of what is the real world is actually like, where it's a series of small projects, and you do not choose who you work with. It's more or less, it's the people who are around you are the ones that you have to get along with and succeed together. And some of the changes that I made in my instructional process as a result of this program, and like the information that I've come across, or the colleagues that I have talked to during these group activities, have been that I am a bigger supporter of formative type of assessments as opposed to summative assessments. And I believe that the students it's important to have these sort of assessments to make sure that the students stay on top of the material, as opposed to leaving everything up until the end of the semester. In addition, one thing that I have done is that now I've started then in like making worksheets where they have like individual lines that they have to fill in to write their answers. I just give them sort of like basically like a box, and they're allowed to use any sort of way to give or explain their answers. They could use a mind map, they could use a Venn diagram, they could use anything that helps them, or just a general diagram, that they can use anything that helps them give the answers. And I've been impressed by how creative the students are when they're allowed to sort of think outside of those written answers. And in addition, one other thing that I always do now is I select the teams for the students, and every time there's a group activity coming in, I would come into the class and post them onto the projector of who's working with whom. And as a result of this, the two things that happen is the students don't feel the shyer students don't feel the pressure to approach someone, and in addition, also the students don't stick with the same group. So I'm the one who actually divides them into multiple groups, and they also get a chance to work with different people. And finally, how I'll use this portfolio in practice is basically I'll continue adding into my research portfolio as I come across more research articles, and they will be helpful for me in designing my future